What's up everybody? This right here is the letter V, and while it doesn't represent the sequel for V for Vendetta, it does stand for Victus, which is HP's entry-level gaming laptop. And this year, it's been renewed with some brand new specifications. So it is a 15-inch laptop that has Intel's 12th generation i5 1200H series processor, 16 gigabytes of DDR4 memory. We also have 512 gigabytes of SSD storage, and it does come with the RTX 3050 with 4 gigabytes of VRAM on board. We also have Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5 standards additionally. And finally, like I mentioned, this is a 15-inch full HD screen, and there is a lot to talk about with regards to this laptop. It's an interesting one, so let's get started. Starting with the packaging experience, you know PC manufacturers are serious when they paint the box black rather than the generic cardboard color. So anyway, it comes in a cool looking box. Once you open it up, inside you have a few things. Firstly, you have the laptop in a ton of protective packaging. Remove all of that stuff, and finally here it is, the HP Victus 15-inch laptop. Now past that, you also have the inclusion of a massive 200-watt charging adapter, which makes sense given the hardware on this thing, and of course the charging cable piece as well. Now finally, you have a quick start guide, warranty, and regulation information. Design-wise, this is one of the most elegant looking entry-level gaming laptops I've seen recently. It's well composed, and while the build is made entirely of plastic, it doesn't feel cheap or finicky in the slightest. It's sturdy and firmly in place. Now it's worth noting, while the color here is called Mica Silver, there's very little silver about it. Actually, I'd say it's more so kind of like a darker variation of space gray, but just a observation. The laptop has an overall weight of approximately 7.4 pounds, making it kinda heavy for a 15-inch laptop, but within the territory of gaming machines in general. Now starting off at the top side, like I mentioned, you have a plastic surface finish. There's not a lot of texture going on here. It's pretty smooth and solid. You will notice, of course, that giant V logo. It's kind of hard to miss. It is reflective, of course, and generally speaking, it looks nice, though it is a bit of a fingerprint magnet. The rear side of this laptop is where you'll find the heat exhaust vents. So as you can see, you've kind of got a massive heat sink that goes from one end to the other, and this is essentially where the hot air comes out from. On the sides of this laptop is where you'll find all the I/O ports. So on one side, you have the DC charging port, you have one USB-A port, the good old headphone jack, and towards the corner there, you'll see you have a full-sized SD card reader. Can't complain. Now on the other side, you'll notice you have one more USB-A port, a much appreciated HDMI 2.1 port, a Ethernet jack, and of course a USB-C port that supports both power delivery and DisplayPort functionality. Generally speaking, this is a healthy composition of I/O. On a quick side note, guys, if you are enjoying the content, please consider subscribing to this channel and liking this video. I put a ton of time, effort, and resources into making these videos, and it's just me by myself here, so you subscribing to my channel genuinely means a lot and allows me to grow and do more stuff just like this. Thanks for watching, let's continue. The bottom side of the laptop is a pretty happening place. You'll notice you have this massive air intake vent from one corner to the other, though it's worth noting both the cooling fans are actually located on the right side, which means the entire left side is mostly just for show and passive cooling, I suppose. Now it's worth noting you do have a speaker grill at the bottom, one on either side, so this is a bottom firing setup. As soon as you unfold this laptop, you are immediately greeted by corporate dominance. You can see the Intel sticker, the Nvidia sticker, the Bang & Olufsen decal, the HP Victus decal, and even a 144Hz certification. Plenty going on, but past that, you do have a pretty spacious palm rest over here. Now, the trackpad isn't half bad either. So while you do have a plastic surface finish, the clicks are nice and tactile, flex is relatively limited, and you have a decent amount of surface real estate. But to be fair, who even uses a trackpad for gaming? Psh. The keyboard is definitely of respectable quality. While not necessarily the best keyboard I've seen on a laptop, you do have well-labeled keys, relatively spacious keycaps in terms of surface area, and you'll also notice the keyboard is of course fully backlit. Now you don't get RGB lighting here for you color maniacs, but I personally like white lighting anyway, and of course you have a 10-key number pad as well for productivity for day and gaming for night. Now it is worth noting the overall typing experience is decent. It's tactile, tactile, the keys don't feel finicky or flimsy, and you have a decent amount of key travel, though I wouldn't go as far as saying that it's the best experience out there. Generally speaking though, it's a great keyboard. Also, you do not have fingerprint scanning built in, so keep that in mind as well. Directly above the keyboard, you have the equivalent of a fake exhaust in a car. This is not a speaker grill, this is not a cooling vent, it's this weird thing HP likes doing where they just poke a bunch of holes to make it look like some sort of vent or grill. It's kind of weird. But anyway, past that, you do have the hinge, which I'm a little concerned about as there is a fair bit of wobble. Also, the hinge mechanism is not that sturdy, which does raise a little bit of concern in terms of long-term wear and tear. You have a super fat chin at the bottom of the display and a V logo for the Victus to go alongside that. Thankfully, you do have very narrow bezels that look nice, sleek, and modern. Now, you also have a relatively thin forehead at the top. Unfortunately, it does have a mediocre 720p webcam, but I suppose I should be grateful as some companies like Asus with their ROG Strix G15 don't even give you a webcam, so yeah. Keeping in mind that the display here is prioritized for gaming, I still have a love-hate relationship with this screen. So on one side, you have a healthy 1920 by 1080 resolution, which equates to a 16:9 aspect ratio. You have a fantastic 144 Hz refresh rate, which of course, as we all know, is great for gaming. You have a high-quality IPS panel with wide viewing angles, a 9 ms response time. Additionally, it's worth noting you do have a anti-glare coating on this display. Now, color accuracy comes to a mere 45% NTSC or approximately 56% sRGB, which means colors look dry and lame basically. I would not recommend this laptop for color sensitive activities like photo editing, for example. Now, to make matters a little worse, you have a mere brightness rating of 250 nits. This is not enough for bright settings. Basically, this laptop is designed to be played in a low to moderately lit room, and do not use it outside. The sun will just absolutely destroy the screen in terms of sheer glare. Keep in mind we have the i5 processor here, but you can also get this in the i7 configuration. Now, regardless of which one you get, at the bare minimum, this is a very capable machine. Day-to-day tasks like web browsing, document crunching, or let's say watching online content are going to be a total breeze for this laptop. Even high-intensity activities like 4K video editing, photo editing, 3D modeling, or coding are pretty much possible on this machine, and you'll have a good experience even with just 16 GB of RAM. Now, gaming is interesting. Keep in mind again, this is a entry-level gaming laptop, and that RTX 3050 won't be able to max out most recent titles, but games like Doom Eternal, for example, can easily be played towards the higher settings with a healthy frame rate ranging somewhere between 90 to 120 frames per second, which is pretty darn amazing. Now, even games that are more CPU biased in terms of performance, like Guild Wars 2, for example, run pretty smoothly thanks to the H series i5 chip we have here. So even under high activity areas, I was able to get 40 plus frames per second, and GW2 is a pretty poorly optimized game. So that's not too bad. And games like Fortnite, which are way more optimized in contrast, tend to do pretty well. So I can run the game at high settings and easily get over 60 frames per second. So again, it's a pretty pleasurable experience, though I will say this is not a card designed to max out games. It's definitely designed to play them at high settings with good frame rates. Thermals are a rather interesting story. So based on our test, under unrealistic peak loads, we hit a maximum average surface temperature of just about 45 degrees Celsius, which isn't as brutal as some other laptops out there. More realistic sustained loads will yield you around 38 degrees Celsius, which is fairly cool, literally. Now, with that said, the fan noise can hit a maximum of about 51 decibels, which is actually in range with most other gaming laptops. What is a little concerning is that the fan is almost always on this thing, even when you're doing low intensity activities, though in all fairness, putting the setting towards low performance mode does alleviate that problem to a good extent. Depending on the region you're in, this thing comes with a 70 watt per hour 4-cell lithium ion battery. Now, realistically speaking, if you're bold enough to play games on battery life, you can expect anywhere between 1 to 3 hours of life. General productivity activities, on the other hand, can squeeze the life all the way up to 7 hours. Aside from that, it's worth noting you do have a dual speaker setup like I mentioned earlier. They are bottom firing and they're reasonably loud and there's very little distortion, but have a quick listen for yourself.
They're established, I'm doing things a bit manic, but I can handle it. Juggle this, juggle that, struggle here, lose some cash, win and lose, make it back. You can choose your own path, nothing good comes fast, nothing fast ever lasts. So I'll be patient but attack every day like it's my last. Push the pedal.
The configuration we have here will cost you just north of about $1,100 US. Now, to be fair, you can downgrade or upgrade certain components depending on the region you're in, and you can go all the way down to about $850 US for the cheapest possible configuration. But with that said, no matter which one you get, this is a well-built machine. Generally speaking, it has a great build quality, it's sturdy, it has respectable components like a good trackpad and keyboard, for example. My only gripe with this machine, or the two biggest flaws I see in it, firstly is that super fragile hinge system, which I think should have been a little bit more secure and well tuned. And additionally, having a mere 250 nits peak brightness is just ridiculous and really does affect the usability of this laptop display. However, if you are willing to look past those flaws, I still think this is a good computer from a performance to price ratio. You are getting relatively powerful hardware and you can have a pretty good gaming experience and even potentially max out certain games. So with that said, I definitely think it's worth its money. I think it's a great laptop and definitely one of the better gaming entry-level laptops out there. If you guys enjoyed this review, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. It genuinely helps us grow. Thanks for watching.